Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 203 based on novel. So let's start. Furillo didn't stop to think and just stabbed his devil spear upwards. He was a true devil of the devil race and was an existence that was revered as respectable king by the other devil gods. Even though his skills couldn't be said to be matchless, he was a top-notch practitioner in Supreme Emperor Heaven. Only Saint Woodcutter's axe could block his devil spear. Yet when the incomparably thick devil spear collided with the huge fist, it actually bent from the crushing force. Furillo grunted, and the body of the spear slid backward in his hands, slicing his skin open and painting the shaft crimson. Soon, he could withstand it no more, and the devil spear flew out from his hands. Destroy that jade pendant. With the roar, another huge fist crashed ruthlessly onto Furillo's body. His bones shook and cracked, then went numb. Devil blood spurted out from his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth as he flew backward. Bang, bang, bang. Dull thuds rang out as his huge body crashed into sacrificial altars, which could not stop his momentum. At that moment, he saw light, the light of Qin Mu's eyes. They were two beams of devil light. Twang! Two flames swept forward like light pillars and hit Furillo's chest. It exploded, revealing his insides. He was a true devil, so he had a strong cultivation and astonishing life force. He hurriedly sealed his wounds, but he still went through countless altars. As rocks flew in all directions, he saw Chinmu leaping around with a strange posture, passing through the rubble in the air and closing in on him rapidly. Furillo's momentum gradually weakened, and he finally stopped when he reached the last sacrificial altar. He was completely stuck within it. He raised his head with difficulty, and saw Chinmu in front of him with an evil expression on his face. He was currently examining him with interest. Furillo revealed a hint of smile with difficulty, and said in a hoarse voice, "Let me tell you a small secret." "What secret?" Chinmu tilted his head. "I love to hear the little secrets of others before they die. Quickly, tell me." "I will." Furillo raised his palm and smacked the youth's head. "Return the jade pendant to you." Chinmu's expression changed drastically. "You wish to scheme against me? I will kill you, you little s." Suddenly, the violent aura around his body faded, and his eyes regained clarity. The eye in the heart of his brows closed unwillingly, and the face of the primordial devil's primordial spirit behind him distorted before vanishing. Furillo let out a sigh. At this moment, the jade pendant that was stuck on Chinmu's forehead dropped to the ground. Furillo felt his blood run cold and exerted all his strength before relaxing again. Luckily it didn't shatter. He fainted with a smile. After a moment, Chinmu climbed up and looked around groggily. When he saw Furillo embedded in the sacrificial altar, he couldn't help jumping in shock. When he saw all of the destruction at the abyss, he couldn't help feeling a lingering fear. Saint Woodcutter was right. Once the jade pendant leaves me, a great curse will be unleashed. Even this true devil Furillo was beaten to such a state. Looks like this curse isn't simply just heavenly lightning or heavenly fire. The youth's gaze flickered, and he turned to run in a hurry. Let me take this chance when he has fainted to quickly get away. After taking 2 steps, he turned back and searched around for his jade pendant. He put it on and only then did he leave. Luckily I didn't lose it. The curse in this jade pendant is very useful, so it would be a pity if I lost it. Soon, Chinmu knocked out a devil divine arts practitioner and stripped his clothes. He changed appearance and just walked flamboyantly through the devil lands while they swarmed toward the abyss. There had been a sudden change in that area. The activity was noticed by everyone, and the whole city was alarmed. Even though the events happened fast and stopped soon, the power that had burst forth had been extremely terrifying. Whoosh! 2 devil gods flew toward the abyss. Numerous devils who had wings followed right after them. Qin Mu went against the crowd, slowly squeezing forward. In time, he walked out of the crowd and moved toward the city gate. He didn't dare to fly as he was in the city of the devils. He didn't know how many devil gods, or experts of divine bridge realm and life and death realm were hiding around. Even the gods of Supreme Emperor Heaven wouldn't dare to be reckless here, so he could only slowly inch forward. While doing that, he became anxious again. When the 2 devil gods reached the bottom of the abyss, they would find the fainted Furillo, and it wouldn't take them but a moment to bring him back to consciousness. When the devil god opened his eyes, he would definitely order a lockdown on all cities to look for Qin Mu. If he couldn't leave before the order for the lockdown was given, he might not be able to escape at all. The city had once been a divine city of Supreme Emperor Heaven, and it was unbelievably vast. It would take him some time to reach its outer walls. Qin Mu hurried until he finally came to the city gate. At that moment, a shout came from the abyss. Respectable king has commanded to immediately lock down the whole city. Restrict all devils from going out. Activate the formation, lock down the city. The ground, the sky, lock down all of them so even a mosquito would have to forget about going out. Qin Mu's expression changed slightly as he looked at the city gate. There were numerous strong workers of the devil race pushing the huge city gate forcefully to shut it. On the towers and other tall buildings, formation markings and runes lighted up. They flowed down from the tops of the buildings like water and went toward the city walls. Once the formation and rune markings on the city wall lighted up, beams of dazzling lights shot into the sky. Between the markings, a huge space barrier began forming in the sky. At the base of the wall, there were quite a number of rune and formation markings flowing into the ground. Even the capital city of Eternal Peace didn't have such defensive preparations. If the formation markings in the sky fused with the formation markings in the ground, Qin Mu would have to forget about leaving the city. He seemed to suddenly melt, turning into a black shadow that moved quickly along the corner of the wall. It was heading straight for the city gate. Gates were huge and heavy. Even with dozens of strong devil workers working together, they could only slowly push it closed. The strong workers had cultivated corporeal body divine arts and had boundless strength, not spells and spirit weapons. They only cultivate their muscles and bones, raising their physical strength. There were similar strong workers in the army of Heavenly Saint Cult and Eternal Peace Empire. When a couple who had cultivated their strength to the extreme, they could even carry a stone statue that was the corporeal body of a god. Yet the city gate of this divine city required dozens of strong workers to push it. The shadow that was Qin Mu leaped through the shadows of the buildings like a phantom. He seemed akin to a spirit that was rushing to the bottom of the city gate. Before it closed, he had to leave or else he would have no way out. With the effort of the numerous strong devil workers, the gate was about to be closed. There was only a small gap left between the 2 huge doors. Suddenly, a shiny bead rolled over and got jammed right between the 2 doors, preventing it from being closed. A strong worker beside the door saw this and kicked the bead out of the city. He grumbled and pushed the huge doors shut. It just that he didn't see that when he kicked, his shadow had rolled out together with the bead, fusing with the shadow of the bead. The bead continued to roll for over 30 yards. It rolled to the side of the moat and gradually stopped there. The oval-shaped shadow under the bead suddenly grew limbs, and its 2 shadow-like arms became longer and longer. They soon put force on the shiny bead, and it rolled forward and dropped into the river with a plop. After a moment, in the shadow on the opposite the moat, a pitch-black shadow crawled out and moved close to the ground. Soon, the city gate opened wide and countless devils rushed out of the city. That person is not in the city. Find him immediately, we can't let him leave our territory. Qin Mu hid and dodged, avoiding all the watchtowers. He utilized his phantom illusion technique to its extreme for that. In time, he went up high and looked afar, but he still couldn't see Li City. Furillo had brought me to the territory of the devils, but where exactly is this place? How far is it from the human territory? The land was vast and the sky was dim. The sun in the east was cold as it gradually became red, signaling the coming of night. Qin Mu composed himself and hid his figure. Supreme Emperor Heaven doesn't have even one star, so it's hard to orient oneself. I can only hurry on my way in the morning. The scouts of the devil race searched everywhere while Qin Mu hid here and there. When he was about to be discovered, he killed the devil scout and changed into his thick black iron armor. With the helmet and a long black iron devil spear hanging on the hooks of the horse, he roamed on a devil fire nightmare through the fog of the devil territory. On the second day, the ugly broken sun lit up as usual, and Qin Mu pushed open the face cover of the black iron helmet to orient himself. He used devil language to steer the devil fire nightmare toward the east. When afternoon came, Qin Mu raised his head toward the sun, and his face changed drastically. The broken sun in the east had suddenly extinguished. Imperial Preceptor, aren't you being a little too efficient? Qin Mu almost spewed out a mouthful of old blood. He had told Imperial Preceptor to assist Supreme Emperor Heaven in designing two suns, so the broken sun's disappearance from the sky was definitely linked to him. This had to be, because Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor found the sun unbearable to look at and summoned all of the divine arts practitioners to Supreme Emperor Heaven to get rid of the thing and reforge it. With the sun gone, it was almost impossible for Qin Mu to orient himself. In Li City, flames blazed and lit up the darkness. With the light of spirit energy mutual shift bridge connecting Supreme Emperor Heaven with great ruins, numerous divine arts practitioners were pouring in from Eternal Peace. They had built a huge factory beside Li City and begun forging giants as well as all kinds of components day and night. True God Pang Yu fetched the blueprints that nobody understood. They displayed Sun Great Furnace and were left behind by Sun Forger God. The god hadn't had time to finish forging the second sun before he was assassinated by the devils, but luckily his blueprints had survived. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor summoned numerous divine arts practitioners skilled in algebra and recalculated, improving the blueprints. He set extremely high requirements for precision. What the divine arts practitioners of Li City were forging was the Sun Great Furnace. My lord, I've lost junior brother. On the city tower of Li City, the black tiger god tumbled to the ground and transformed into a little black tiger that was only a foot tall. It had black and yellow stripes running down his body. He lighted up a stick of incense and prayed respectfully. The smoke of the incense rose in spirals and condensed into a cloud above him. It transformed into Saint Woodcutter's face, which was staring at him expressionlessly. The little tiger bowed his head and glued his ears together at the back of his head, not daring to speak. After a moment, Saint Woodcutter's voice reached him. What do I need you for? The black tiger god felt his blood run cold and hurriedly said, Don't worry, my lord. I will definitely find junior brother Qin. After the smoke dispersed, Saint Woodcutter's voice spoke again. I've gone to the world of the devils, and I'm temporarily unable to return. If I come back and don't see that disciple of mine, you shall stay in this form forever, and can forget about turning back. The black tiger god let out a sigh of relief. At this moment, he heard a crisp and loud voice from afar. Fatty dragon, even though young master is in this world, won't you starve if we don't find him after you had eaten all your spirit pills in one go? There was a chuckle, and another muffled voice spoke. Sister Linger, you might not have noticed, but when I had painstakingly snatched back some of my spirit pills from the devil general in the chest, I've only dared to eat a spirit pill a day. I've already starved to the point that I'm only bones. Look, take a look, I'm much skinnier than before. To prevent young master from not being able to recognize me, I had decided to eat all of the remaining spirit pills. Yet even so, I'm worried that I won't recover to my previous state. I've heard young master is lost. If we can't find him, you'll starve to death. Cult master is so clever, how could he be lost? The black tiger god looked toward the source of the voices. He first saw a huge chest, then a behemoth with a huge tummy. When he walked up the city tower, his fats were jiggling randomly. It seemed like a huge monster that had the bloodline of a dragon and a Qin. On the head of this fatty sat an adorable little girl that looked to be 5 or 6 years old. She had 6 snow-white foxtails behind her, and there were 2 furry ears on her head. Sanghua, Yu-He, and the rest were following behind. There were 2 young girls he had not seen before among them. The little girl with the furry tail and furry ears saw him, and her eyes couldn't help shining brightly. She jumped down from the big fatty's head and giggled as she rushed straight for the black tiger god. She clapped her hands and said with a smile, "What a cute little tigua, let me hug you." The black tiger god smelt the odor of a fox, and his face turned black. He trembled and transformed into a beautiful and big black tiger that was over 30 yards large. He roared toward the sky, and his god aura and fierceness assaulted the surrounding area. The expression of the little fox demon changed drastically, and she turned around to run toward the unfamiliar girls. She jumped into the embrace of one of them before starting to bawl. Big Tigua. The young girl turned the demon fox away from him while the big fatty sat down on his buttocks and raised his head to look at the behemoth in front of him in awe. Sanghua hurriedly went forward and said, "Senior Tiger, these few are the friends of Cult Master Qin." The black tiger god dispersed his god aura and fierceness before transforming back into a black tiger youth. He retracted his sharp claws and his ears flapped twice. "I've been scammed by a fox in my early years, so I can't meet a fox demon, pardon me." Little fox demon popped her head out and said with a smile, "I don't scam people." She collected her courage and walked out from Ling Yuxiu's back to examine the black tiger god. "Can I touch your ears?" she asked with curiosity. The black tiger god hesitated before lowering his head. "I've scared you just now, so I'll let you do it." Hu Linga touched them and exclaimed in admiration, "How soft. You guys, try touching." Ling Yuxiu hesitated. Wouldn't this not be good? After saying that, she encouraged herself to try it and cried out in astonishment. "They are really very soft and smooth." The other girls also stretched out their hands to touch, and the black tiger god felt somewhat comfortable. However, he still didn't think it was proper. He was a demon god after all, and it was quite embarrassing to be touched like this. However, it was indeed very comfortable. The dragon Qin came forward and planned to have a try as well. The black tiger god immediately raised his paw and pressed the fellow on the ground. After a moment, everyone was satisfied, and the black tiger god asked, "How do you guys plan to find junior brother Qin?" "Very simple, Primordial Spirit Assembly," Sai Yinxiang said with a smile. Primordial Spirit Assembly. The black tiger god was puzzled. He had never heard of this phrase before. Sai Yinxiang took out a huge stack of blueprints and laid them out in the city tower. Drawn on them were all kinds of rune markings. This is a technique that cult master and divine arts practitioners of eternal peace work together to create, and it was named Secrets of 3 Primordial Spirit Assembly by the Emperor. Sai Yinxiang searched for a moment and found Qin Mu's primordial spirit marking, then took out cinnabar and brush. After dissolving the cinnabar, she started drawing on the pillars of the city tower. Cult Master once imprinted everyone's primordial spirit marking in Imperial College's Hall of Supreme Learning. His own marking was also there. Primordial Spirit Assembly uses them to attract a person's primordial spirit over, so everyone could gather with their primordial spirits to discuss matters. Ling Yuxiu took out a stick of incense and stabbed it below the primordial spirit marking, then lit it up. This soul guide incense that Cowherd had created from the divine art soul guide. It is used to bring a primordial spirit over. We want to use it and the markings to make a connection with his primordial spirit, then guide it over her and ask him about his location. The two girls looked at each other, and Cai Yinxiang released her vital qi, lighting up Qin Mu's primordial spirit marking. Ling Yuxiu in the meantime used her vital qi to wrap the fragrance of soul guide incense to send it into the primordial spirit marking. Everyone waited quietly in the tower and watched the soul guide incense burn down. Its smoke rose in spirals, but the fragrance wasn't too thick, more like refreshing. Incense didn't last for too long, so as the soul guide incense burned down bit by bit, everyone's heart was on tenterhooks. The primordial spirit marking and soul guide incense would invoke a reaction with Qin Mu's primordial spirit, so he would just need to execute secrets of 3 primordial spirit assembly to be able to come to them. However, if he'd met with some bad luck, he wouldn't be able to come to meet them. When soul guide incense was halfway done and there was still no activity, everyone became worried. But at that moment, wind howled and rushed into the city tower. Everyone was delighted. They saw that Qin Mu's primordial spirit was faintly discernible and not stable. Cult Master, where are you? The dragon Qilin was extremely delighted and cried out hurriedly, the spirit pills you have prepared are finished. Come back quickly. I prepared enough pills for 3-4 months for you, so how have you finished them already? The dragon Qilin was speechless. Young master, we're looking for you. Where are you now? Hu Ling'er asked. Qin Mu shook his head. I also don't know. I'm in the devil's territory, but there are no sun, moon, or stars in the sky to orient myself. I was kidnapped by Furillo, but managed to escape with difficulty. Now I'm being pursued by the elites of the devil race, so my primordial spirit can't stay here for long. Everyone frowned greatly. Sang Hua suddenly spoke up. Brother who threshes the grains, look at the terrain of the surrounding mountains and remember them. Check if there are any cities around. Supreme Emperor Heaven has 64 cities, and the name of each one is different. The terrain around each city is also different, so whatever you tell us, we'll be able to determine your location. Qin Mu's primordial spirit picked up the cinnabar brush and drew on the ground. He quickly painted the terrain around him. I didn't see any god city. Sang Hua, Yu He, and the rest of the divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven took a look, then shook their heads. They were too young and hadn't been to the devil's territory before. Let me call my father. Sang Hua left in a hurry. Suddenly Qin Mu's primordial spirit dimmed. The enemies are here. I need to go back. A gust of violent wind blew out of the city tower, and the primordial spirit disappeared without a trace. Not long later, Sang Hua brought God Sang Yi over, and he examined the terrain that Qin Mu had drawn in detail. He thought for a moment before crying out, "He's near the devil's old nest. He is in Black Sun Mountain Range, that's beside Returning Maiden City." He frowned. Returning Maiden City. Wasn't that God City destroyed? I've heard that that place has become an ominous land. God Sang Yi nodded. When the devils invaded, they first appeared in Returning Maiden City, and completely destroyed it. In front of Black Sun Mountain Range, is the battlefield of Returning Maiden City. That place was the cruelest battlefield in Supreme Emperor Heaven, close to 1,000 gods and devils died there. The numbers of divine arts practitioners that lost their lives on both sides are uncountable. If he continues walking forward, he will enter that ominous land. Why do you say that place is ominous? Ling Yuxiu asked in puzzlement. Too many gods and devils died there, and their blood has all gathered together, forming an extremely strange zone. It is filled with the undying wills of gods and devils, as well as curses and devil nature of the damned souls. So many divine arts practitioners, gods, and devils were lost there that they could make the entire zone light up like day when night falls. There was a hint of terror in his voice when he continued. What light up the night are barn lanterns. They hang on the small boats that come from Yudu. Countless messengers of death sailed around, making that old battlefield a treacherous place. Back then, I had yet to cultivate to the god realm and was only a small soldier. After the huge battle, the place had become incomparably desolate. Young Sang Yi had suffered heavy injuries in the battle, and when he woke up, the sky was already dark. When he crawled up from the pile of corpses, he saw an unforgettable sight. Small boats sailed from the darkness, and under their lanterns were thousands of elders that looked exactly the same. They went around silently and reaped the souls from the battlefield. The elders didn't make a sound, yet the night was filled with the wails of countless souls who didn't want to fall into Yudu. However, none of them was spared from the grasp of the messengers of death. They followed the small boats and floated into the darkness of Yudu. God Sang Yi could never forget that sight. The broken souls weren't taken away by the messengers of death, so as time went by, that place became an ominous land. There have been numerous strange incidents in there, and numerous peculiar things hide in that place. God Sang Yi composed himself before continuing. Afterwards, both us and the devils have given up on that place. If Cult Master Qin continues to go forward, he will step into that ominous land. The dragon Qilin suddenly cried out. The mixing of god blood and devil blood can give birth to terrifying things like Lonely Mountain Ridge Root Demon. Quickly inform Cult Master to avoid that place, the dragon Qilin cried out. How strong is Lonely Mountain Ridge Root Demon? God Sang Yi asked. About equivalent to a strong practitioner of life and death realm. God Sang Yi sneered. That should only be a little fellow. The things in the ominous land are even stronger than divine arts practitioners of life and death realm. Quickly tell him to avoid that place. Cai Yunxiang and Ling Yuxiu hurriedly contacted Qin Mu again, yet even when the incense had finished burning, he still hadn't responded. He should have encountered enemies, so he doesn't have the time to reply. This is bad. Cai Yunxiang said. Those enemies must be strong, and they might even force him into the ominous land. I shall go over there and fetch him back, the Black Tiger God said resolutely. God Sang Yi shook his head. You can't go. The journey would be too long, and there are too many variables. If you meet a devil god on the way, even you would die there. It's best if you guys stay here and wait for his primordial spirit to reply, hoping that he will be able to walk out of the ominous land. Only by walking out could he have the chance to survive. The Black Tiger God frowned and shook his head. I was the one that lost him. I need to find him. Cai Yunxiang and Ling Yuxiu looked at each other and said in unison, we'll follow you. Me too. Hu Linga raised her tails and looked at her companion. The dragon Qilin hesitated. Hu Linga's eyes narrowed, and she said gently, Fatty dragon, if we can't find young master, you will have to starve. The dragon Qilin was instantly full of vitality. Count me in. Sanghua looked at her father and said, Father, they are unfamiliar with this place. God Sang Yi felt a headache coming. Just be careful. A day after you guys enter the devil's territory, I will lead troops to attack and attract their attention. You guys will be safer that way. At the borders of the ominous land, the devil fire nightmare under Qin Mu let out a cry when its legs were cut off by a series of knife lights. A devil divine arts practitioners sliced open the horse's belly and attacked Qin Mu, who was on its back. Qin Mu leaped up while pressing down with his palm. He shattered the devil along with the horse in a single move. Whoosh! An old woman rushed over with a huge calabash. Blood light poured out from it like a flood and drowned Qin Mu out. With a bloody stink, it swirled frantically before taking the shape of a huge crimson python that coiled around Qin Mu, snapping his bones. Formation markings swirled in Qin Mu's eyes, and sun rose from the Milky Way. Two beams of light shot out. One severed the head of the snake, while the other severed the neck of the old woman. A scorpion lady swung her barbed tail, and it pierced through Qin Mu's shoulder, lifting him up high. She smashed him ruthlessly onto the ground, and a devil youth carrying 8 big flags bowed toward Qin Mu. The 8 flags flew out and poles stabbed into the ground around Qin Mu. Devil connecting mountain formation. Suppress, 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 suppress. When the devil youth shouted the word 8 times, 8 mountain apparitions descended from the sky with loud explosions. The ground trembled from them. Suddenly, countless stars flashed in the apparitions of the 8 mountains and transformed into great overarching heavenly stars force field. With the palm of Qin Mu, the 8 mountains shattered. He rushed out of the flag formation and saw over a dozen knife pellets swirling furiously toward him. He hurriedly pointed his hand in that direction, and a huge fix word appeared in the air. The dozens of knife pellets froze in the air. The next moment though, they began to spin and countless devil knives shot out, slashing the fix word into pieces. Qin Mu turned, and stepping on stars, he avoided the countless devil knives by a hair's breadth. His sword pellet flew up then. Sweeping against the wind, it shattered all the blades in the air. Over a dozen devil soldiers with 3 heads and 4 arms rushed over. They advanced and retreated, attacked and defended as they fought furiously with Qin Mu. He blocked over and over again, suffering from dozens of blows in the blink of an eye. He then hurriedly escaped underground. The 4-armed devils pressed their hands against it, causing the ground to bulge up, and Qin Mu was forced out. He leaped into midair, but crashed down a moment later. He moved like a dragon and slithered like a snake, rushing into a huge swamp before him. Numerous devil soldiers chased him to the side of the big swamp, but suddenly they all stopped and frowned. "Should we go in?" a devil divine arts practitioner asked in a low voice. Qin Mu walked into the huge swamp and looked around. There were thick fog and devil chi all around. Below the clear water, corpses floated. They would occasionally pop out onto the surface of the swamp, revealing their skeletons and some rusted spirit weapons. He pondered for a moment before coming closer. He gently knocked the skeleton on the ground and asked with a smile, "This brother, how do I navigate here?" The skeleton sat up and turned to look at him. He opened his mouth. "This is the road to the Yellow Springs. You can enter, but there's no return. This video will end here.